In our previous lecture, we learned about NS timers and how we can use them to create countdowns and even kind of like a mini stopwatch. As you can see on the simulator here, we had our little start timer, which when we pressed it, counted down. It kind of repeated a function statement which changed the value of our int, and we could even trigger stuff coming off it. In this lecture, we're going to be taking NS timers and using them in a different way. We're going to use them to display the current date and the current time in the real world. So within our project, I've got Xcode all set up here. We're going to jump into the main.storyboard. As what we're going to do is can configure it to be able to display our information within the application. So how we're going to display the time and dates within the app is with UI labels. They're both going to simply display either the time or the date. Now we use NS timers is because basically we need it to update every so often using our function statement to display the exact time. Now obviously the date doesn't really need to be kind of updated as much as the time does because the date only changes every 24 hours. But we're going to have them in the same function statement anyway, so we get a up-to-date and more precise time and date within the application. Okay, so what I'm going to do first then is add my labels in. I'm going to start with my first one here and bring up the attributes inspector within it, and we're going to center the text. So we're going to change it to a more custom size, and let's go for Helvetica there, and let's change it to, let's go for a more bolder effect. Increase the size there so we can clearly see it within our application. So I think that's large enough, and all I do is copy it and paste it. So we've got a total of 2 in all together. Let's make sure that's center. There we go. Okay, so our first one is going to display the date, and our second label is going to display the time. So it's going to be live, up-to-date information for our users. And the best thing is it's localized to the user's device. So it's going to display their time zone of date and time. So we're going to click on the files owner, and we're going to bring up the assistant editor, and we're going to add in the 2 outlets for these 2 labels. So he's got our labels here. So this one's going to be our date label. So I name this date label, add that in, and again repeat the process, and this is going to be our time label. So we're going to type it time label and also connect that up. Once I've done that, close my assistant editor, go back to the standard editor, and then we're going to jump into the viewcontroller.swift. Okay then. So the first thing we need to do is create a variable for our timer before we can create the setup for it to trigger our function statement. So just after our IB outlets there, I'm going to create our new variable and call it VAR. And just like we learned in the previous lecture on NS timers, we're going to name this timer. And what it's going to do is equal our NS timer. This is what makes it understand this variable is a NS timer. Let me finish it up there with the 2 brackets. Okay then, so we've created our variable of our NS timer. We can now create the trigger kind of function that will enable us to keep repeating and updating our time and date. And we did this previously with a button. We pressed a button which triggered our countdown. We're going to do it different in this lecture. To display our time and date, we want it to be going straight away. We want it to have a live preview as soon as the application loads up. So we're going to do this within the view.did.load. So we're going to set up our kind of NS timer statement. So in the name of our timer, which is timer, and that's going to equal our NS timer. Then we do the dot scheduled attribute, which is the timer with time interval, and we need the one that has the target and the selector. Now in the first highlighted section is how often it's going to update our NS timer. Now if you select the number 1, that means it's going to update it or be triggered every second. And as we're working with the time and date, the date doesn't have to be updated every second, but we're going to be using it in the same function statement anyway. That only needs to be updated every 24 hours, so we're not too bothered about that one. What we're bothered about is the time. Now as we're going to be displaying seconds, we need to update basically every second so we get the exact and current time. So we're going to keep that to 1, do .0 there, so 1 second altogether. In the target, we're going to do self. Selector, we do selector. And we do our 2 brackets there, and in between them are 2 quotation marks. And we'll come back to that in just a second. So we're just going to finish up the statement. The user info, we're going to have nil. And repeats, we're going to set it to true because we obviously want it to keep repeating and updating our time and date. Okay then, so we've got that set up. We now need to create our function statement. So we're going to do it down below. Space it out so we can clearly see it. And we type out func. And I'll name this update timer and create 2 brackets at the end and then create our parentheses and press enter. So this timer is going to keep updating our function statement, and how it knows how to update the function statement is because we add it in between the 2 quotation marks of our selector. That's what it's selecting to basically update every second. So every second it's going to make this function statement basically trigger. And what this function statement is going to do is display our time and date within our 2 labels. So first off, we're going to work with our current date. And we need to create again another variable of our let, and this is going to be our date formatter. And this is going to basically equal an ns date formatter. We've got 2 brackets on the end there. So that's equal that. That means we're allowed to use this variable now to basically either display the time or date, which we're going to be using it to display the date anyway. So we get our date formatter. And then we then do dot and then select what kind of format it's going to be. So obviously this is going to be our date, so we do date style. And we'll equal that to a certain style of date that we want to display. Now there's 3 versions of it. We can do a short, a medium and a long. We'll mess around and we'll change them up to see which ones which ones will be better. But we're going to do standard, we're going to do dot medium style. This is kind of like the kind of go-to style. This will display the date in its full glory. So you can mess around with it, choosing different ones. As you can see here, we have the option to do a full, a long, a medium, a non-style and short. As you can see, as we highlight one of them, it says a medium style, kind of abbreviates it to Nov 23 and then the year, or if you're using the time, see there. A longer version gives us the full November. The full style gives us the full day, the year, and everything like that. So we're just going to play around with them. I'm going to select medium first to go with it. And then we're going to get the date formatter and then get that to be displayed within our label. So the label we want to use is our date label. I'm going to do dot text and equal that to our date formatter. Then we do dot string. We're doing the from date one, and what we're going to place within it is in ns date, and then there are 2 brackets and a bracket at the end there to close it all up. So we selected medium style, so it's going to not be the full length feature, but we'll play around with it and see how they look. So we've all got it all set up now. So what's happening, we've created our let of our date formatter and we've equaled it to an ns date formatter, which basically means we're allowing this variable of our let here to be linked to a date, so we kind of knows what that information is going to be stored within it. We then got the date formatter and equaled it to a medium style date. So this knows it's going to be displayed in there and then it's going to be placed within the text of our label. So if we go to build and run now to see exactly how it looks, and again, as soon as the view loads up, that function statement gets triggered and then gets displayed within it. Now again, it's not going to update because, as you can see here, it takes a full 24 hours for this date to simply update. But we jump back into our Xcode here and change it to, let's go for a full style now. You can see exactly how it looks. And then build and run. Then we get the full date in here. So hopefully the label is long enough to display it all in. It's not. So jump back into our storyboard here. And what we'll do is, we'll make the date quite long anyway. I don't think the times need to be just as long if we did a full style on that, but we'll see anyway. So we load it up now, and it should be long enough to display the full date in there. So you can see it's Wednesday, December the 16th, 2015. So there you go. So it's displayed in its full glory, the actual current date. So you can mess around with it if you want a full, a short, a long, a medium style, anything like that. You can play around with it and you've got the date displaying in there. And again, that's getting updated every second, but you won't see the changes because, again, the date only updates every 24 hours. Where you're going to see the changes is when we display the time. So let's jump and do that now. Okay, so back within our view controller.swift, we're going to basically copy out exactly what we've done in this same function statement here. And there's a reason why I've left 2 spaced gaps between each one. We're simply going to copy it and paste it in there, and then change this from a date formatter to our time formatter. So we created another additional one. Then underneath our date formatter that equals our date style, we're going to get our time formatter to equal, instead of our date style, it's going to equal our time style. And again, that's going to equal, we'll start with medium first to see how it looks. And then again, just like we've done there. So if I go back and quickly get rid of it, and just like how we messed around and seen what the kind of how it displays them. So a full one displays the day, the month, the date and the year. So a full style displays the time, AM or PM, and what time zone it's currently in. A long one is more kind of shortens down the time zone for like GMT or PST. A medium style just shows the time in the AM or PM, and a short style is just without the seconds. So a medium style is going to give us seconds anyway, so we're going to keep it with that and then get it to be displayed within our label. So we get our time label dot text to equal our time formatter dot string from date, just exactly what we've done before, ns date with our two brackets and then that bracket on the end which closes up that full statement. Okay, so now we're going to go build and run this time, and once you've seen it, we're going to play around with the different styles after. But once it loads up and then the view load gets called to then trigger our function statement, you can now see that it's updating every second. You can see the seconds keep going up and up and up. So this is a medium style, which displays the hour, the minutes, the seconds, and if it's AM or PM. So if we go to Xcode now and change it to, let's go for a full style and build and run. You'll see when it loads up now, the format changes. So we're going to have to, again, make this longer. I did think we would have to do that, make our label quite a bit longer. There we go. Hopefully that's long enough, because we got the time zone, which for me is GMT, so it's Greenwich Mean Time, which is quite a long piece of text to fit in, but it fits in perfect. So you may not want to go the full distance to display the full time and date in a full style with the GMT or the PST, depending on where you are in the world, but you can see how it localizes to the user's time zone, such as mine. So now let's play around with it, and let's go for the shortest style we can possibly give it, which is a short style. Let's copy that and paste it onto the full style there. Go to build and run. And you see how it changes up from the full style to the short style. So the short style date is 12th of the 16th, 15, kind of puts it there with the forward slashes there. And for the time, it gets rid of the seconds, the GM or the time zone, and shortens down the PM there. So it's 9:45 PM. So you can see exactly how it's shortened it down. But no matter what style you're using, it's updating every second. So let's put it back to the full style there, because I think that looks the best, and you can kind of see clearly updating however you want. So again, it gets called upon, and there you go. The time is now updating every second. We've got our time and date all set within our application. So there you go. That's another way in how you can use NS timers to keep updating localized information within the application. Whether it be the date being displayed there, which again only gets updated every 24 hours, or the time, which with a full style or even a long style, it gives us seconds, displays that information and gets updated regularly. So NS timers are versatile things that you can use to just keep updating and triggering actions within the application.